This arrangement started as a simple grocery store run. Nothing rare, nothing complicated, just thoughtful choices layered intentionally. Today I'm walking you through exactly how I build a bouquet like this, so it feels abundant, balanced, luxurious, and most importantly, lasts a long time. So it was a close friend of mine's birthday this weekend, but instead of being able to celebrate with her, we all got 18 inches of snow dumped on us, and we all spent the weekend pretty much just snowed in the entire time. So I ended up missing her birthday, unfortunately, and all of us here in New Jersey are fairly grumpy because we are pretty much sick of the snow. I mean, our last snowstorm that was about 3 weeks ago had just started to melt, and then this snowstorm came and we are just kind of over it and ready for spring to come. So based off of that, I decided to go to Trader Joe's and put together a beautiful bouquet for my friend for her birthday and just drop it off to her and give her a big smile on her face. So let me take you through that process. Let me take you through the process in terms of how I pick the containers, how I pick the flowers, and how I actually build out the bouquet. So starting with the container, I had quite a few options. I had smaller ones and I had larger ones. And I was originally gravitating towards the smaller ones because I know that she has a limited space, as most of us do, in terms of our kitchen counter. And I know that that's probably where she's going to want to keep this because that's really the heartbeat of everyone's house. And so I didn't want to take up too much space initially. So I figured a smaller container would be best. But then I ended up changing my mind and I ended up gravitating towards a larger container. The reason being is that she has 4 kids and I didn't want anything that constantly required the water to need to be filled up. And these smaller containers do need that. They need a little bit more attention because they only hold so much. And if you put a lot of flowers in there, flowers are very, very thirsty, especially if you keep the house nice and warm and cozy. So the more heat and the more flowers you have in there, the more often you're going to have to water them. And the last thing that I wanted to give her was yet another thing that she needed to keep alive or look after. So I ended up gravitating more towards the larger vessel. The other reason why I ended up gravitating more towards the larger vessel is when I went to Trader Joe's, I ended up picking quite a bit of flowers. So we're going to get to the flowers in a second, but let me just tell you about what structure I'm going to be using inside these vessels. So these 3 I'm going to put aside because we're not going to be using those today. In terms of how you keep the flowers in place, you have a couple of options. Now, in recent years, they started strongly recommending not to use that green floral foam because it is very bad for the environment. So you have a couple of other options. One, you can use chicken wire, and literally this is just a strip of chicken wire that you get at Home Depot, you get off of Amazon, wherever, that you can kind of just ball up and stick into whatever vessel or container that you're using. I'm not going to be using this today because this is clear glass and you would be able to see it, and that kind of defeats the purpose of making this really pretty. But this is fantastic to use for your vessels that you can't see through. I use this all the time. The other thing that you can use are what they call flower frogs. Now I get a lot of my flower frogs from thrift stores. I can find them quite often in my thrift stores. There's 2 different kinds here. There's one that doesn't have any sharp metal needles on the top, so you just kind of slip the floral stems in between to hold them up. Or then you have the one that does have the sharp needles at the top, and that you kind of poke the stems of the flowers on. Now bear in mind, not all of the flowers are going to go on the flower frog. That's not the purpose of this. This is really just so the majority or your larger structural flowers will be poked onto these flower frogs, which creates a structure within the vessel itself, and then that'll hold the smaller, more delicate flowers in place as well. So your goal isn't to poke everything on to your flower frog. So I'm going to be using this flower frog. This actually fits perfectly at the bottom of this vessel. just like that. So you won't be able to see it once the flower stems are in here. Now this vessel I purchased at a thrift store, and as I was cleaning it, I realized that it's actually from Crate and Barrel. So it was handmade in Poland, gotten from Crate and Barrel, and I got it for a total of $15. So I thought that was a great purchase. I love the color of it. I think it's going to go really beautifully with the flowers and complement them really, really well. Now, the other thing that you want to think through when picking your vessel is the size of the opening. So this one has a fairly wide opening. The wider the opening, the more flowers that you're going to want to put in there, or the more fillers that you're going to want to put in there. Because otherwise they're just going to flop all over the place and it won't look like much of an arrangement. So now let's get to the actual flowers that I picked. So all these flowers I got from Trader Joe's for a total of $70, which I thought was a really great price. Now they're not exotic, they're very basic flowers, but again, it goes back to I didn't want my friend to have to fuss over something else in her life. So I wanted something that'll sit beautifully on her table or wherever she chooses to put it for a full week, if not longer. And she can just enjoy them rather than constantly be worrying about them wilting or them only lasting a couple of days in the vase. I really wanted this to be something that she can smile and look at for a number of days. So what did I get? I got a couple of beautiful soft pink ranunculus. Some wax flowers, dianthus, carnations, mums, I'm not 100% sure what these are called, but these are some filler flowers. Star of Bethlehem. These last in the vase for weeks and weeks and weeks. I had put this in my arrangement for my Christmas table, and they were still looking fantastic about 2 to 3 weeks later. And then I got these beautiful ferns because I thought that the tips of these, how they go from a darker green all the way to this purple, I just thought that that was so gorgeous and so elegant. Now I'm going to fill up my container with a little bit of water. I'm not going to fill it too high because I'm going to need to put this in the car and take it to her house. And so she's going to fill it up a little bit more once I get there. But I'm just going to put just enough in here to keep the flowers healthy for the next couple of hours. Now, Trader Joe's also does give you some flower food. I am just going to throw some in here. Now, all those things that you hear about putting some aspirin in or pennies in, I don't really follow those rules. I just use the packet that comes with the flowers themselves, and that seems to be good enough. Again, it's more about the flowers and how they're conditioned than it is about what you're putting in the water with them. Because if they weren't conditioned properly, or the flower just isn't known to have a long vase life, no matter what you put in the water, it's probably not going to help that much. Now you want to watch your proportions. So the rule of thumb, and again, it's a very loose rule of thumb, but you want your highest flower or the highest point, wherever it is, to be about 1.5 times the size of the container, which means that for this vase, it's probably going to be right around here. So not all of my flowers are that tall. Some of them are going to be shorter. None of them are going to be taller, but basically these wax flowers are going to probably be what's sitting up the highest in this container. Then everything else around it is going to fill in. The other thing that I try to do is I try to mimic nature in terms of not everything is just one perfect ball unless you're clipping a boxwood, but really try to have different layers and different heights and variations to it to make the arrangement a little bit more interesting. When you're sticking the flowers in, this might not be the best example because it's already been de-leafed. I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to go with it. But you want to make sure that there's nothing at the bottom for a couple of reasons. One, it can start making the arrangement really difficult to put together if you still have all the leaves at the bottom, because once it starts getting tightly packed in there, your bottom of your container is tightly packed with all the leaves that are going to potentially rot in that water, and then the top still isn't full enough. So that's one. But two, as the flower is drinking, the water is going to the leaves that are closest to it. So that water might not make it all the way to the top, which could also potentially lead that flower to perish a lot quicker than if you were to go and take everything off the bottom. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to quickly do a fresh snip on all of them. I just do a quick angled cut. I also have this on a Lazy Susan, so you want to know where your arrangement's going to be positioned, and if you're going to be able to see it from all sides, you want to make sure you make all sides as even as possible so that there isn't a front and a back to it. Lazy Susans can really help with that, so you're making sure that you're turning as you're working it. If you don't have a Lazy Susan, you can just move your body. We are going to have to cut off some of the bottom buds, which is a little bit sad, but it's not going to sit right in the vase if you leave it. So I do keep them off to the side, and I might make some bud vases later on, just in case I have enough. And then I really don't love the look of the mum foliage, so I try to cut that off. Making arrangements is not a neat process. Or maybe it is, and I just haven't figured out how to make it a neat process. So for carnations, you can manipulate the petals to be nice and full. So here is what it looked like before, and then what it looked like after. Just gently pull it apart. Let me do it again so you guys can see. So here's a before. And then there's your after. right, I think this turned out really good. I can't help but smile just looking at it, and I really hope that she's going to feel the same. Now with the little extra ones, I just stuck them into little bud vases, and I'm going to have them right here on top of my sink. But I can't wait to give this to her and see her reaction. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. As always, if you did, please make sure to like and subscribe and stick around because I have more right here for you. Have a good one. Bye.